What's that happening? I haven't noticed if that little, I guess it probably always popped up, telling me to abide by the community guidelines or just recently and since I violated one. Whoops. My apologies. Wasn't on purpose. Oh, give everybody a minute to get in here. We'll see what we can come up with tonight. Scroll back to the top of my notes. And I reckon we'll hit record and kick this thing off. So this week's episode is brought to you by, and inspired by actually, Deep Roots Rifle Company. Elevated excellence rooted in integrity and reliability. Use the link in the description to get over to their website and order just about everything you need to get into the woods this fall. From fully custom rifles built in-house to flashlights to help you find your way in the dark. And be sure to tell them that UPO sent you. If you guys haven't already, hopped over to their site, sign up for their weekly newsletter because they just hit me earlier this week with talking about accuracy and fundamentals of accuracy. And I was like, man, you know what I need to do? I need to get some check zeros on muzzleloaders and sight in the new Hawken. See how it's shooting for where it's sitting at. So I figured, you know what? Let's talk to you guys about zeroing rifles this week. And you know what goes into that, because it's not as easy as you wouldn't want to start. First off, you can, but you wouldn't want to start by just going out and shooting straight at a piece of paper at 100 yards. It's a way to do it, not the most efficient way to do it. We'll get into that. So, first thing we're going to cover. It's throughout this. We're going to cover. We'll start with bore sighting. We're going to move through several zeroing methods. We'll cover marksmanship fundamentals, touch on iron sights, and then go into like the practical vital zone sizes of common game animals, so you get an idea of, what size area, what size target you got to hit. First is bore sighting. This is the easy, time-saving way to get on paper, not get to the shooting woods. Get on paper. So bore sighting is a quick alignment step to get the barrel and optic roughly on the same point. It saves ammo. That's the big thing you're going to get out of that. And time by getting your first shots on paper instead of miles off. I know if you're like me, I've done it without bore sighting, gone out there, pulled the trigger, and you're like, it's not on the paper. It's not on the 4 foot by 8 foot sheet of plywood that piece of paper is taped to. I didn't even see it touch sand. I'm not even sure I hit the berm. But bore sighting is going to save you that time and ammunition. So there are 3 common bore sighting approaches. Visual, where you're going to remove the bolt and look down the barrel. Obviously, make sure your gun is unloaded before you do any of these. Second being magnetic or mechanical or optical bore sighters, and laser bore sighters. The laser bore sighters, you can get them where they look like whatever your gun, a cartridge, like whatever your gun's chambered in. Keep in mind, though, those as well are going to come with instructions on how to center your laser to make sure it's actually centered in the inside of the laser bore sighter itself. And then you go from there. Bore sighting is not a final zero. Okay, it's a starting point. You must still fire and confirm at distance. I think I've heard plenty of people. I've heard it. Well, I know I've heard it before, where guys are like, "Oh, I took it to the gun store and had it bore sighted. I can't believe I missed. I'm 2 foot low at 100 yards. Yeah, they bore sighted it at 25, and it wasn't perfect. Heck, man, their laser could have been off center, and it was aiming lower than your bore. So you never know." The visual bolt out method. Okay. Unload the rifle, remove the bolt, put the rifle on a safe rest, and look through the bore at a target at 25 yards away. Then adjust the scope so the reticle centers on that same target. Replace the bolt. Take a couple of shots at 25 yards to confirm. Then move to your final zero distance. Mechanical or magnetic bore sighters. You just going to insert the mechanical sighter into the chamber or muzzle as directed. Then adjust the optic until the reticle centers the sighter's dot on a target at short range. Again, this only gets you on paper, but you still must fire to finalize. So, like I said, always make sure the rifle is unloaded. Use a safe solid rest, bipods or a sandbag or shooting block, anything that's going to hold, I can't think of the name of that. There's like for the life of me, I should have wrote it down. I didn't think of it earlier. It'll come to me halfway through the show and I'll stop and come back to it. For long range scopes, if you're thinking of shooting at, a greater distance than I would say 100 yards, bore sighting at 25 yards might mean you need significant turret adjustment at 100 yards. So expect that. So bore sighting gets you on paper. Next, we're going to talk about actual zeroing methods. Zeroing is adjusting your optic so the point of aim equals the point of impact at a chosen distance. Which zero you choose depends on your rifle, cartridge, hunting needs, and chosen terrain. So we're going to cover some different methods. The 25, 100 yard sight in is a classic method. It's one I've used most commonly. You're going to start at 25 yards. Set your target out, confirm, and then you shoot your 3-shot group, fire a 3-shot group, adjust turrets until you're on target, then move it out to 100 yards and finalize. This conserves ammo, and it's safe for high-velocity cartridges, which may print low at a short distance. So, practical steps: warm the rifle, rest, fire 3 shots, average the group, adjust turrets, measured clicks, reshoot. When you shoot at 25 yards, you can't expect that you're going to be on at 100. And some rifles, even at 25 yards, may still not be on the paper. Had that happen before. So in that instance, we shot at 25, set it to 100. Couldn't find it on the paper. Moved it back to 50, shot again, adjusted to that point, and then moved it to 100, and then we were on paper. Still had to make some more adjustments to get it on. And things you got to keep in mind, too, depending on, say you're shooting not a real flat shooting rifle like a 45-70. Whatever your zero is going to be at 25 yards, it's going to be significantly lower at 100 yards. So when you do get it sighted in at 100 yards, if your typical shot range is going to be, you're thinking probably 75 yards and in, you may want to try and shoot that rifle again at 25 and then maybe at 50 to see where it impacts point of aim. Honestly, though, if I knew my shots were going to be inside of 100 yards, what's going on, Jake? I'd be sighting in for 75, maybe closer, maybe sighting in at 50 and seeing where I hit it 100, and going from there. So, point blank range zeroing, like a 0/vital zone 0. A point blank range 0 is set so the bullet stays within a vertical window, for example, plus or minus 3 inches from muzzle out to a certain distance. This is pretty good for hunting with a no holdover, right? For common target ranges, you can get that point blank range. We'll say it's going to be 75 yards. We'll then cross over the same path again at 350, and then everywhere between 75 and 350, you remain within that 3-inch or probably 5-inch window or so, depending on the rifle. You're going to be inside that, group about that big. And that's pretty good if you can get 75 to 350 out of that, or 300 or whatever. But you're not going to be perfect. Not that you should be trying headshots anyway, but I definitely wouldn't be trying one with that. Headshots just going to end up, a lot of times, can often end up in a injured deer, blowing a jaw off, and a deer starves to death. I've seen it more than once. I don't do it. I shoot pigs in the head. That's about it. Pigs and squirrels with 22. your, like I said, your 200 yard zero might let you hold center mass from 0 to 200. You adjust based on that window. Then you got your ladder method or multi-range confirmation, which if you're going to thinking about going out west, this is a really good thing to do. Or you're thinking your furthest shot's could be up to 350, 400 yards. After your initial zero, confirm at multiple distances. Come back to 50 and shoot at 100, shoot at 200, so you know your impacts at common shooting distances. This is especially useful for, like I said, long range or variable range hunting. I've hunted on places where you could sit in a tower stand and see 400 yards across the food plot. Maybe you want to shoot that far. I don't think it's a bad shot, a hard shot. Just make sure the deer is standing still. You know, got them busy eating food or whatever, eating in the food plot. But that's up to you. And don't shoot beyond what you're comfortable shooting is the basis of it. If you know you can accurately repeatedly make a 500 yard shot, then you're good to 500. If you know that, I hit the target, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 times out of 10 at 500. No, closer than that, not 500 yards. Cold bore versus warm barrel zeroing. So barrel temperature can shift your point of impact. So take at least one cold bore shot to confirm and be aware of any point of impact shift as the barrel warms. If you notice consistent shift, factor that when you zero. Best thing you can do, and you got to think about cold bore too. Cold bore or clean bore is probably a more accurate way to describe that. Is as the rifle barrel fouls, and there is a bit of change in a warmer barrel, but that's negligible. But as the rifle barrel fouls, you get fouling built up in there. Your point of impact will shift. So you won't see me for the entire hunting season after I've sighted, confirmed zero, which you should be doing every year, whether you know the rifle's zeroed or not, because, safe gremlins get in there and turn dials and stuff. You want to... I don't punch my barrel. I don't sit there and run a good jag down it and get it super clean and spotless. That's the end of the season type of thing, unless there's some other circumstance, heavy rain, a lot of water, stuff like that. Maybe I'll think about it. I'll, prevent rust and things like that. But other than that, bore snake, maybe knock the dust off of it. Look down through there. If it doesn't look bad, I'm not touching it. Not till the end of deer season. Clean the outside. Yeah, Camp Gremlin Will gets in there and adjusts your scopes. That's what happened to Larry, right? I adjusted his scope. No, Larry tried a headshot and missed. And you can use ballistic apps and dope charts. There's a lot of free ones in the App Store. That's going to get you pretty close when you're talking about shooting at distances beyond your zero. A lot of times you can input your zero range and then use the data off of the ammunition box. Should have a ballistics coefficient for the bullets you're shooting, the muzzle velocity, and so on, like all the pertinent information, your grain weight, all that stuff goes in there, and then that data, that chart will calculate for you. Now keep in mind, it's that muzzle velocity thing is going to be off of the ideal barrel length for that cartridge. So if you're shooting 308 out of like a Ruger American Ranch with an 18-inch barrel on it, they probably used a 24 or a 26. So your bullet's not going to be moving as fast. Therefore, it's going to drop quicker. Those are things to keep in mind. So you can collect that data from the app, but you shouldn't, I wouldn't say not trust it, but you need to confirm it, verify that it's accurate before you go and try and use it on game. So keep records when you're doing this too. This goes back to the whole idea of the dope apps or dope chart. The rifle, barrel length, cartridge, lot number, zero distance, date, turret clicks, weather, temperature. Those are all things that can come in and play a factor. Wind direction, wind speed. That way you can go back and look and say, man, I've got before I say this, full value wind, straight left to right. 3/4 value, half value wind is going to be angled, half, quarter, so on. 3/4. When you're talking full value, straight left to right, and then you divide that into quarters for half, 3/4, half, quarter, zero value, dead in your face, which could, I guess, technically cause a bullet to rise. I don't think so. That's another thing, too. Bullets don't rise up out of the barrel. Bullets do not defy gravity. Nothing beats gravity. Okay? The little chart that shows the bullet going, whoo, that doesn't mean the bullet goes up out of your barrel. When you're looking at your scope is mounted above your rifle, right? So in order to make point of impact, the scope is tilted down. It's towards the bottom, and your rifle's kind of tilted up. So the bullet fires up to meet your point of impact, which is where you have your rifle zeroed at. It's not a straight, and it goes up like this, okay? Your scope is ever so slightly pointed down, and your rifle's ever so slightly pointed up to give it that appearance of gravity-defying effects where it rises out of the barrel, shooting a straight line. And the second it leaves the barrel, it already starts falling. And the longer the bullet flies, the faster it falls. Slower it goes, faster it falls. So the fundamentals, actually, it doesn't fall any faster. That's just, oh man, I know I need more hands. That's a whole nother, I'm not even going to get into that. That's math and science and yeah. So let's talk about the fundamentals of marksmanship. Good fundamentals turn a zero into a repeatable shot under pressure. So you want a natural point of aim, which you'll see some, like your custom rifles have that cheek piece that sits a little higher than the buttstock, and that's so you can find that natural point of aim. And finding the natural point of aim, what you want to do is lay down behind your rifle and get comfortable. You should be able to open your dominant eye behind the scope and see directly through the scope without any black in there. And then you should just be able to get off the gun, lay back down, get comfortable, open your eye, and see that. That's your natural point of aim. And that's going to keep you more accurate. That's part of the consistency factor, right? Keeps you more accurate time and time again. So position and rest. Use a stable position, prone, seated, or a solid rest. Sandbags, bipods, rear bags, they all make a big difference. I would encourage you to try to replicate your hunting position. All right? If you know you're going to hunt out of a climber, then try to figure out how you can set that up so you can shoot out of your climber, find a good solid rest in your climber. If you're going to hunt out of a box stand, a little easier. Hunt out of like a buddy stand, same as a box stand. You've got usually have a shoot rail in front of you, something like that. So finding a way to rest on a rail is going to save you time. If you're going to hunt off the ground, maybe you want to look into a pair of bipod sticks you can carry, or if you're carrying trekking poles, they make great bipod sticks. And breath control. So you're going to want to hold your breath, but shoot in the natural pause of your breathing. As you breathe in, we naturally pause for a second at the bottom. You naturally pause for a second at the top. Breathe in, let it out, settle in, squeeze the trigger. And that goes into trigger control. You want to squeeze the trigger straight back with the meaty part of the end of your finger. Not the bones. Get here, you can feel it. And with trigger control, best thing, you squeeze the trigger back to the rear, steady continuous pressure, bang. You don't just let go. Okay, hold the trigger to the rear. That way, that's what's called follow through. Maintain your sight picture for a second after the shot. Observe where the rifle wants to move. That feedback teaches consistency. With optics, sight picture versus sight alignment. With optics, you're focused on the reticle. You're focused on the reticle target relationship. With irons, you're going to focus alignment of front and rear sights is critical. Either way, consistent cheek weld and eye relief are essential. And dry fire practice. This is one of the things I did with my son before we ever went to the deer woods. We shot the rifle a couple times, and then we sat here over and over and over again. We practiced target acquisition, where I took a tennis ball, tossed it out in the yard, and then I would let him find it in the scope and squeeze the trigger. Go pick up the tennis ball, toss it out again, hand in the rifle, find it in the scope, squeeze the trigger. All dry fire. That way, because what you don't want to have happen is you're in the tree stand and the buck of a lifetime walks out and you see it and you aim and you can't see it in the scope and you're up and you're down and you're up and you're down, you're up and you're down trying to find, and he's gone. So practice target acquisition, practice that dry fire. That's going to get you a very good feel of the trigger. After a while, you'll know when the trigger is about to break. You don't want to anticipate the shot. It should kind of surprise you, but you want to know when you can squeeze and hold. If you need to pause for a second, take another breath, relax, calm back down, and then squeeze the rest of the way through. So practical drills, a 3-shot, 5-shot group at 100 yards for consistency, record and compare. And each gun is going to like its own ammunition, right? So you may find that your gun shoots one brand of ammunition exceptionally well and another one shoots like crap. So if you find one, you're like, man, this stuff doesn't want to shoot. This gun's inaccurate. Try another brand. Try a different grain weight and see if your gun likes that better. You do some rapid fire recovery, 2 slow deliberate shots, then 1 follow-up in the same group. So bang, bang, bang. Let's see how that lines up for you. And then cold bore practice. Just 1 shot at a specific target and see where that lands for you. Confirm your first round point of impact. So now that we covered zeroing and shooting fundamentals, let's talk about what you're aiming at. The vital zones of common game, right? So these are approximate vital zone sizes. Size is vertical by horizontal. And obviously that's going to, vary based on how big of said species of animal you're shooting at. But ethical shot placement minimizes suffering, so know your limits and be honest about your effective range. If you know that you're only effective to 100 yards, it may be best not to sit where you can see 450 yards. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to, be tempted to screw it up. Because the only thing worse than missing an opportunity to shoot at the buck of a lifetime is wounding the buck of a lifetime and never finding it. So white-tailed deer and mule deer, their typical vital zone is going to be 8 to 10 inches high by 6 to 8 inches wide. So not bad. Pretty good area to shoot at. Aim from the center of the shoulder, rib area, hit heart and lungs. That's what you're going to want to do. Or a high shoulder shot's going to anchor them. Unless you're shooting a big round, then you're going to lose all your shoulder meat. Maybe you want to come off that shoulder a little bit. I like to shoot high shoulder with a 6.5 Creedmoor. Doesn't tear them up too bad and drops them right where they stand. Yeah, having the fish please take your buck also sucks, Jake. You're right. I thought that was a doe. Too soon? Elk are much larger. A vital zone roughly 10 to 14 inches high by 10 to 12 inches wide. But it was a ground grower. You don't hear that very often. Most people suffer from ground shrinkage. You got ground growage, but that was not good either way. Like I said, elk are roughly 10 to 14 inches high by 10 to 12 inches wide. They got a lot more muscle mass and thicker hide, so you need good energy and shot placement. It's better to be overgunned than undergunned. So, can you kill an elk with a 243? Absolutely. Hasn't been done. Yeah, absolutely. People have killed them with 6.5 Grindles. If you're not super confident in your ability to place that bullet on a hair, I wouldn't be doing it. Now, with modern bullet technology and a bullet's ability, it's done so much for a bullet's ability to retain its weight and velocity for much longer ranges, which has allowed people to harvest larger game with smaller caliber bullets. That's great. Less recoil. It's awesome. I wouldn't hesitate to shoot an elk with a 6.5 Creedmoor inside of 200 yards. 200 yards and in. Could it do it further than that? Sure. If I'm going to go further than that, I would want something bigger, probably 300 PRC, 7 PRC, something like that, or Win Mag or 7mm in mag. If you're going to look for the Western, like I say, I really think probably the all-around North American game cartridge is probably the 300 Win Mag. It'll do it all. Elk, moose, which we're about to cover, black bear, brown bear, white-tailed deer. A little much for deer. Again, step off that shoulder a piece. It'll jelly the inside. You'll be fine. So moose are very big, right? Their vital zone is 12 to 18 inches high and 12 to 16 inches wide. And shot angle and penetration are critical because you got to get in there and really scramble some stuff up. And they will mess you up if they can see you, and they want to. That's not something I'd be screwing with. Black bear, brown bear, that's a big one coming up. If you drew black bear tags, congratulations. I did not. Roughly 8 to 12 inches by 8 to 12 inches wide. Height, wide, just a nice square. Heavy bone and muscle may require some higher energy loads. And placement is going to be middle of middle. You think about, I think the best way to describe thinking about how to shoot at a bear is to look at, like Google a picture of a black bear with mange, right? It's really creepy to look at. Okay, it's kind of chupacabra-ish, but then you start to understand the structure, the body structure of a bear is very different from that of a white-tailed deer. Bears can stand up on their hind legs, so you think they've got a chest like this. That, you know, your heart and everything from the side, your heart's sitting about right here, so it's going to be down here is where you're going to want to hit middle of the middle. If I stand up, you'd see my gut too, but you're coming across the middle of the chest, right below the titties. Wild hogs, 6 to 10 inches by 6 to 10 inches. I prefer to shoot them in the ear. Frontal shots into the brisket can put them down, but you better have plenty of energy because I've seen them take those and absorb them pretty well. I wouldn't shoot them with anything smaller than a big rifle in the chest. Shoot them in the head. You can shoot them in the head with a 22 and kill them easy. Right in the ear hole. Those numbers are approximate. Let's keep that in time. Spend time with a silhouette target at known distances to practice accurate shot placement on the size of the animal you'll be hunting. You can buy paper targets that are the size of a full-blown deer or a full-blown elk. Post those up and shoot at those. Or if you really want to get fancy, you can go out and get you some steel deer targets, or just get a steel target that's the size of the vital zone of the animal you're shooting and carry that from distance to distance to distance and shoot at that. Those are great too because you can get that audio feedback, the audible ping. And steel is just fun to shoot. So if you can't confidently place a 10-inch group at your hunting distance, you should reduce that distance or change tactics. 10 inches is a little big. That's what we call a minute of a pie plate. I wouldn't want to, I don't know that I would feel at all confident. I would really stay within a 5-inch group because when I'm shooting, I want to think about hitting a heart, not just hitting vitals. So I'm staying in that, like that. If I could hold that, which I would expect to be able to hold that, I bet I could hold that at 400 plus yards. Easy. But it takes practice and remembering the fundamentals and building that repetition of breathing control, trigger squeeze, sight picture, all that, one after the other, after the other, after the other. So let's talk about zeroing iron sights real quick. You're going to use the same method you would use for your optics. You're going to start close at 25 yards. If you're off paper, then move to your chosen zero distance. Commonly 50 to 100 yards for irons, depending on the sight radius and the cartridge. Because irons are less precise than optics, keep groups and point of impact expectations realistic. Practice until you can hold a consistent group size at your chosen distance. Consistent group size, again, I would be more inclined to say I know I'm comfortable with a larger group shooting iron sights than with an optic, right? A magnified optic. But still, you want to make sure you're well within that vital zone size at whatever distance you want to shoot at. And it's kind of fun to shoot distance with iron sights. It gets more difficult because you're looking at, as the animal gets further away, the vital zone appears smaller and smaller, and your iron sights cover more of the target. You see it hunting with a pistol or hunting with some muzzle loaders, depending on what your state requires. If you're using aperture sights, small adjustments to windage elevation are often via screws. Keep note of click values if available. So, and then, a peep sight, like an aperture sight, is going to be more precise than shooting a blade sight. And the further apart you can spread that sight radius, the further apart your iron sights are, the more accurate you can be with it. The pros to them are they're rugged, no batteries, fast for close, medium ranges, cheap, reliable backups. They're shorter, effective precision than optics, slower at long range, and require good eyesight and a consistent cheek weld. So you're not going to get that black ring inside of iron sights like you would with a scope. So some common mistakes and quick fixes with iron sights is focusing on the target instead of the front sight. Fix by consciously refocusing on the front sight during dry fire. Poor cheek weld, inconsistent eye position, mark and practice a repeatable head position, rushing sight alignment, slow it down, use a smooth trigger press, and not accounting for sight radius. Shorter sight radius, like I said, on carbines, magnifies small, slight errors. So the longer you can get that sight radius, the better. So, quick tip, if you're hunting in a state where you're forced to use iron sights for a muzzleloader, or you just want to, a lot of times you can take some of these new muzzleloaders and remove the scope base, or buy a scope base with a peep sight on it, and that'll extend your sight radius out. So, quick recap. Bore sight to get on paper, then pick a zero method that matches your hunting style. Confirm at multiple ranges, account for cold bore shifts, keep a dope card, practice fundamentals. Breathe, trigger, follow through. Finally, know your vital zone sizes and only take shots that you can ethically make. So, that's what I got for you. It's fun. I don't like to rush through the range times. I like being on the range. Get out, do some shooting, man. It's good stuff. So maybe we'll talk about some not that kind of dope card, Jake. Wow, what a way to end it. I'll leave it right there. You guys have a good night.